Kimeya's going to take us through some innovating with MYOB Advanced, some of the new stuff. That's what we came to see as well. How does the solution look? What's new? What can Kimeya inspire us with in terms of getting more out of the system? And you've got some really nice things to show us, Kimeya.
I do indeed. Yeah.
Over to you. Welcome.
Thank you. All right. So thank you, Grant. As you mentioned, because a lot of you are already familiar with MYOB Advanced and have been using the system for a few years now, we'll focus on a few of the key features that are new to the system that will hopefully make your day-to-day processing a lot easier and more efficient for you. Right, so we're going to be looking at our banking section, and in particular processing transactions using GST allocation, which previously we couldn't do very easily, as well as being able to allocate payments and documents across multiple different business accounts, which is quite handy. Right, so we'll also look at intercompany sales. Now, I know a lot of clients are probably already using intercompany sales, but through either a workaround process or maybe not as easy as it could be. So this is a really cool feature that was introduced to help streamline that process. Right. Another thing that's come is the ability to stock upsell, cross-sell, and substitutions. So it makes it nice and easy for your sales staff to be able to swap up products and add products as they see fit. And then lastly, we'll look at some business events just to help you with automation. I know a lot of you are quite familiar with the system being able to automate quite easily, and business events is a really, really nice feature in order to do that across the board. So there's multiple different things that we can do. So I'll get started and I'll share my screen. Okay. Right. Okay. All right, so I'll jump straight into it and I'll look into our banking section. I'm going to jump to the process bank transaction screen. Right. Select any account here. Okay, now the first feature I want to show you, which is really cool, is the GST option. Now previously, if we had a transaction that we wanted to allocate GST portions to, we had to create a manual cash transaction and split that and then come into the processing bank screens and hide the transaction. Okay, so now what we have the ability to do is allocate GST within the same screen. Okay, so we would select our expense type, not just another one here. Okay, select our entry type as normal. Okay, and you'll see now you have the tax total field up here. Okay, so I can split this particular transaction into two lines, and I can allocate tax accordingly. So I can say this particular line or this particular amount of this transaction does have GST. All right, as you can see, the GST has updated here. Okay, and I can leave this one as is, or I can also allocate GST if I need to. Right, so it saves you the time of having to manually create that transaction and then hide it from your processing bank screen. Another cool feature is the ability to match invoices and payments to multiple documents. Okay, so previously, again, what we had to do was use the create payment feature, and we would have to jump into a different module. We would then select a business account. Okay, and have to load documents to bring all of our documents through. Okay, so we're going to skip that step, and now what we can do is actually match to invoices or match to payments. Okay, so if I click this match to multiple documents, what will be available to me is basically all bills that match my transaction type. So this is a disbursement. So it is going to bring through my supplier bills, and it's going to bring everything that has not been allocated as yet. That is $42,100 or below. Okay, and as you can see, if I look at these business accounts, it's not only for a particular supplier as opposed to the matching criteria. It can go to any supplier. So you can actually match one payment to multiple different suppliers now, if you wish to. Okay, if you prefer to use the search and narrow it down to one particular supplier, you can do that as well. All right, and this is as simple as ticking these checkboxes to match the payment to. In the same way, if I jump to match to payments, I can match to multiple payments. Okay, and I can also match to receipts and disbursements that were created outside of the AR or AP modules. So for example, I've got here GL entries as well as an AR payment. Okay, so it will give you the options to match again to multiple different payments across different suppliers or different business accounts. It's very cool, nice and easy, and it saves a lot of time you're processing. So from there, what I'll jump into is the intercompany transactions. All right, so I'll start by creating a invoice, customer invoice. Yeah. All right. So like normal, we would select our customer. Okay. In the bottom section, we've got our branch. And as you can see, I'm in the Sydney branch. And I'm going to select inventory, put in an amount. All right, and save this. Okay. So I'll release this invoice now. Okay, now the next step for me to do is to jump to my payables module. Right, and from here, what I'm going to do is generate intercompany documents. So this is one of the new features. And as you can see, my invoice that I've just created is already there waiting for me. Okay, so all I have to do is select the invoice and hit process. And what that does is it creates a transaction for me in the AP module to match my document in the AM module. Okay, so if I jump to bills and payments, bills and adjustments right now, I will be able to see my newly created AP bill with the branch main, which is where my customer is from. So the next thing I'll show you is upselling and stock. Okay, so if we first go to our stock items, once the related items feature is turned on, right, you will now be able to see a related items tab in your stock items. Okay, so here you have the options to add as many items as you need that relate to your stock item. So this can be for cross-selling, for substitutions, or for upselling. Okay, so you can put as many as you need to. As you can see, you can even mark them as required or not. Okay, so if I were to create a sales order, yeah, just some more space. And what we're going to do is start adding in our items. Okay, so I've put in a standard keyboard. And as you can see, you now have this related items column in here. If I hover over this, you'll see the options that are available for this particular inventory item. So we have the ability to substitute this item, to upsell it, or to cross-sell. Okay, so I'll just fill in some amounts in here. So I'm gonna order 10 of those. If I click on the related items tab here, it will pop up with the different options that I have available for this item. Again, it's gonna split it. You can see all records here, or you can split it to see what's available to substitute, what's available to upsell, and what's available to cross-sell. Okay. So in this particular instance, I am going to say 5 of these items I want to actually upsell to the Bluetooth keyboard. So I would select this and add and close. What that's doing is it will create a separate line for me for the 5 items that I upsold and keep the other 5 as the original item. Okay. If I click on the related items again, now what I want to do is cross-sell, which I also have the option of doing. So I can select that line again and add. What it's going to do is add that in as cross-sell items along with my Bluetooth keyboard. I also want to order 5 Bluetooth mouse. Right? Okay. The last one would be your substitution. Okay, so if items are, you can have items that are required to be substituted, or it can be an option as well. If they are required, for instance, if you are looking at no longer selling an item and you need it to be replaced if it is ordered, you can mark it as required, and what it will appear in is red instead. Okay, so as you can see, as I hover over, it needs to be substituted. So again, if I click on this button, it'll bring up my options, and I can select this line, add and close. What you would have noticed is my original item of 15 has disappeared, and now it has been replaced with the item that I chose, which is 16. Okay. And then from there, this can be created and processed into a normal shipment and invoicing and further on. Now we'll jump to business events. So some of you might be familiar with business events already and be using it. It's really, really nice feature. Today, we're going to be looking at an instance where we have a customer who we've put on credit hold, and we then want to notify them automatically. This is the customer as well as a sales rep that this particular customer has been put on credit hold. Right? So nice and simple. We're going to use a trigger by record change, and we're going to use a notification template. Okay. So if you, to demonstrate this, if we jump to a customer, all right, and if we change the status to credit hold and save, all right, so that's going to generate that email. If I have a look now in my emails, just give it a second. There we go. Now I've got an email that was created, and this is going to the email that was linked on the customer's account, as well as including the salesperson. So it's an email to say you put on credit hold, this is your outstanding balance, and please contact your sales rep if you need any help. Okay, so in the same instance, you have business events, I'm sure, for supplier payments or bank account details. So if there's changes to that, someone in your organization would get notified. You can have business events and notifications for approvals, basically anything that you require in the system. There's examples of when a purchase order has back order items, that those items are then sent in an email back to the supplier to notify them. All right, so lots and lots of possibilities there. Okay. Lastly, what I do want to show you, so most of you would probably be familiar if you're using approvals in the system. An email usually gets generated and sent to the approver as a notification for them to jump into the system and approve their document. Okay, so what that would usually include is a link for them to jump into the system, and it will take them directly to the document. So a really cool customization that was done for a client was, in fact, that the approval was actually done within the email itself. So I'll quickly share my screen again and you can see how that works. All right, so on this particular screen, you can see that this is an email, all right? And directly in here, you will be able to see that you've got this approve timesheet button. Okay, so if I click on this, it will automatically approve the document and send the information back to MYOB Advanced. So that's preventing me from actually having to jump into the system and approve that. Okay, so I can do it directly from my email. All right, so this is a customization, but it's just an example of all of the possibilities that are out there. And I think that's all for me, Grant. I'll see you a bit later for Stump the Consultant.
Don't sound so enthusiastic. I mean, that was fantastic, Kimeya. You're a superstar, and that's why we've got this weird sense of humor where we indeed have a section coming up called Stump the Consultant. And we invite our audience, now that you've seen Kimeya and those wonderful features, hopefully that was really helpful. We're going to bring it back, and you're allowed to throw questions into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen there. Try and stump the consultant. Let's give her some hard ones. She's really good. We haven't been able to stump her yet, even in the live sessions. So help us out. Come on, get those questions down, and we'll see you shortly.
Thanks, Grant.
Come back later. Yeah, thanks, Kimeya. See you soon.